This is Paul Jenkins, and you're listening to the Reluctant Leader Podcast. Now, I believe two things are true. One, everyone leads someone. And two, no one really feels qualified to lead anyone. So maybe you feel overlooked, unqualified, invisible. But the good news is, in the Bible and in life, the most qualified aren't always the most obvious. Hey, just before we jump into this episode and interview with Evan Didio, I wanted just to give you a heads up. You're going to notice that the audio sounds a little bit different from me. It's going to sound like I'm doing this podcast in a cave, and that's partially true. We're in the middle of some home renovations, and so the place where I used to do the podcast has become, I've moved my studio out into what used to be a garage, and so we're getting things set up. Wall treatments aren't quite finished yet, so you're going to hear some of that cavey, echoey, whatever. The good news is I tried to talk as little as possible so that you could hear what Evan had to say, and his microphone is, of course, fantastic. Why? Because this 19-year-old is a phenomenal mind when it comes to audio, video, and especially how to use YouTube in a way that spreads the gospel. We talk a lot about Jesus in this episode, but also in a way to grow your business, your brand, whatever. If you need help with your YouTube channel and all things social media, for sure, check out the show notes and get in touch with Evan. But for now, let's just jump right into this conversation. I think you're going to find it enriching, rewarding, and especially if you're one of those people who feels like there's no hope for the next generation, man, you're going to be so encouraged as you hear Evan's heart. So let's jump into this interview with Evan Didio. Y'all, we're so thrilled today to have Evan Didio with us. You've heard his father, Alan. He's been on the podcast a couple of times previously, but I mentioned in one of those episodes that we wanted to have Evan on. Evan is just a fantastic young man. He's brilliantly talented. He's nodding his head. Yes, you can't see that, but he's agreeing with everything. I'm trying to make sure I read this perfectly off of the card that you're holding up. I just introduced you as Evan Didio, YouTube extraordinaire. You have done so much work with your father, with the church, and I'll let you tell the story about how God has just opened doors for you to come alongside other ministries. So I'm going to give you the chance to just kind of share like who you are, kind of quick intro to all of our listeners, and then we'll get into the story about how you've been faithful in little things, and God is blowing it up into much bigger things that I can't wait for people to hear about. But anyway, Evan, just take a minute and kind of share with people who you are and what you want them to know about you.
Sure. Well, I'm trying to figure that out. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I'm honored to be here with you, Pastor, and I'm excited to see where this conversation goes. So my name is Evan Didio. I am 19 now, and my father is Alan Didio, as you mentioned, and it's been a wild ride the last few years. In late 2019, he received a prophetic word about the coming year. And of course, this is before 2020, before the pandemic. And it was basically God asking him, what would church look like if it was entirely online? And we'd been experimenting with YouTube. A few months earlier, I'd started watching YouTube videos from now my mentor, Sean Cannell, from Think Media out of Nevada. And I asked my dad if I could experiment with it on the YouTube channel. And so I always love talking about this because you are literally just a few minutes away from changing everything. So I spent just a few minutes working on a thumbnail for a video. I picked literally a random video on the YouTube channel, had maybe 1,000 views just because he tried paid, putting money behind it. And I'd heard, paid marketing is great, but organic needs to come first. And a lot of people diss one or the other. Like they're like, well, you should only have organic, or you should do more paid. And it's like, well, both are correct. What you want to do is, and we're kind of getting ahead of the curve here, but when you're organic and you want to go viral, right? And you want to go like Hollywood. When you look at Hollywood, okay, let's talk about their trailers. Whenever they post a trailer and the trailer does really well, like it gets 100,000 views. Like how many of you wish you could get 100,000 views on a YouTube video, right?
Yeah.
Then it starts to top off. And you can watch this in YouTube analytics. It starts to plateau. So it goes, it's kind of like a hockey stick if you're looking at it. So you see the curve of the hockey stick, and then you just see the stick the rest of the way. Sometimes it's still going up, sometimes it's just level out. But what you do at that point is you do paid advertising. So there is a place for paid advertising with organic tied together. But again, I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. So there was some paid advertising on the channel, but it came after, like, he did paid advertising, but we didn't do anything organic, right? There was no attempt to reach people organically. And so I created a thumbnail, and of course, immediately we didn't see any results. And I think some of you today are going to take some of the things we talk about, and you're going to start implementing these things, and you're not going to see anything happen. And it's going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, it could be 2 years from now. If you just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, creating thumbnails, developing titles, someday something's going to change. And even if this is what everyone needs to go through. You need to go through a season of just work and training, right? And so that's what YouTube is kind of built for. Now, if you look at Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, a lot of them are instant success, right? They want you to stay on, so they'll kind of give you some virality every once in a while. They'll give you, like, a TikTok will get 1,000 views that's out of the blue, and you'll be like, what? That's crazy. But YouTube is going to be very different. YouTube is all about the long term. So what I want you to do is take the things that we end up talking about today and start implementing it, putting your shoulder to the plow, and not even looking up till 6 months from now, and not even looking at your analytics till 6 months from now. But anyway, change the thumbnail, change the title, change the tags, did all the things, right? All the things you're supposed to do to the back end of a video. This video was already posted months ago, right? It was already up. And it took a few weeks, a few months, and then it finally started picking up speed. And right now it is still our most popular video, more than 1 million views later. And this has been 4 or 5 years now, and it's still getting views every single day. Imagine if you had one video on your YouTube channel that 15 people were watching every day. What could that do to your overall reach, right? And all those people are now getting exposed to you. But that was my experiment. That's what happened. And we were like, okay, can we duplicate this? Can we replicate this? And we started applying it to every video we did. And we started saying, well, normally we do live streams like this, right? Normally we do church services like this. But maybe we need to start applying thumbnails to this thing. So we started putting thumbnails on, but then that word came from God, where he said, what would it look like if church was entirely online? And immediately, like, I think it was that day, I don't know when it was, but pastor called me up into his office, and I just remember this, like, feeling of, he's been up here for hours, his fingers have been going through his hair. He's been writing on this big old board, like, all these ideas and examples, and he points to it and says, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know what to think. What's going on? What are we even going to do? And but we started implementing some things, and we started really dramatically changing the way we look at normal church services. And of course, this is something that's not just for us. I think lots of churches need to grab this. And of course, stop me if I'm going too long on this.
No, you're good.
All right. Now, a few months later, of course, COVID hits, but nothing really changes for us because we've been preparing for this, right? We've been doing this stuff online. And I think we went not offline. We went kind of online, less in person, more online for a few weeks. And we started seeing some crazy growth because a lot of churches were closing down and weren't even doing online. And if it was online, it wasn't what the people needed while they were staying at home. And so we started finding a few key individuals, and they just kind of became like family. And we knew them through the comments. There are people now, we went to Alabama and people showed up. A few weeks ago, we did a service. We had a week and a half to plan a service in Charlotte because we're starting to launch a church in Charlotte. And people came from, I don't know how many states. One person drove from Louisiana with a week's notice. And these are the connections we started building online. And yes, in person is super valuable, but I think online can lead to in person. Like, sometimes I think we focus so much on in person, we don't think about the people that have nowhere to go, right? They don't They don't have a church to go to. They're just hoping you provide weekly content that can feed them spiritually.
Yeah.
And that was a big turning point for us. Things started to shift, and then we started doing interviews, and things, just went crazy after that, especially with Mario Murillo. Now, Mario Murillo, this was about the time where he wasn't getting a ton of views or a ton of traction, and neither were we. We were getting more than we were before, which was amazing. And then when we did an interview with Mario Murillo, it was kind of this joint effort where when both of us came together, something happened. And since then, God has been opening crazy doors. Can't even go into all that stuff. It's been a wild ride, like I said, and it's been amazing to see God work even through a camera.
Yeah. Now, I think what I keep hearing over and over again while you're talking is just, you know, one, the faithfulness of, if you're thinking long term, then it's the little things that we do now consistently that we don't stop doing. And I know some of you are listening and you're like, wait, I thought this was about leadership and I thought you were like a Christian. And like, there's so much that applies to our lives,
Mm.
whether we're a teenager at home or we're leading a church or leading an organization. We're a little hesitant, a little reluctant to continue to be consistent in the little things. And I love how you started that story. You said things can change in an instant. And I love it when people go, "Oh, Evan, like you and your YouTube channel, it's an overnight success." And I'm like, "Well, no, it was a really long night,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it took a lot of years to have that overnight moment. But if we're not faithful in the lead up, then we won't
right.
ever get to the place where there's a tipping point." And
Most
that's
people, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so I think most people should not go viral. Most churches should not go viral on YouTube or
Yeah,
really on any platform, because when they do, nothing will change.
yeah.
A
Well,
video goes viral. Oh, go ahead.
let me dive in on that too, and maybe speak to this because you've got a lot of content. So we do want to reach the world. We do want to. Everybody wants to go viral. I think the gospel should go viral. But if we only go viral for a moment and have nothing built up,
Exactly.
the backlog, then we're like a one-hit wonder, and it's a great hit, but that's all it is. It's just a
It's an
one-hit.
accident.
Yeah, it's just an accident. So then people come back wanting more, and there's nothing, we have nothing to offer them. I think about that proverb that says, hope deferred makes the heart sick.
Mm,
So they're coming to your YouTube channel or mine, and they're thinking, well, it was really good before, so I bet it'll be even better this time. And then there's nothing there at all.
exactly.
Talk about having that backlog of, and I know that's what y'all had. You built that up over years, not expecting to go viral, but you were ready whenever you did.
Yes. So
Talk a little bit about that.
this is kind of, I think, a twofold. There's there's twofolds to this. So one, you need to have a backlog, a library. Now, if you post one video on your channel, it's the only video on your channel, and it goes viral, like you said, and they come back wanting more, and there's nothing there, then is that video wasn't helpful, especially if that video wasn't on topic or what your channel is about, because then they're going to come back expecting one thing and not see it. And then even if they subscribed, subscribership can be a vanity metric. So even though you have subscribers, doesn't mean anything. Are they watching? Are they regularly watching your videos? So one is having a back catalog, and two is staying consistent. So this is where, small tweaks lead to giant peaks, right? I
Mm.
don't remember who said that, but let's just say for our sake, I said it.
Yeah.
Small tweaks lead to giant peaks. So over time, you need to learn how to develop certain skills. This includes leadership. This includes character development, thumbnail creation, video editing, learning about the psychology behind video editing and thumbnails, and what makes people want to click, what makes people need to click, what makes people feel like they have to click, and consistency, developing consistency. Now, if you can't go live every single week or whatever it is you decide to do, then whenever they subscribe to you, they're subscribing for one thing being released at a certain time every week or whatever it is you do. And maybe they're not going to get that. And if you don't have that consistency of, I'm going to develop content at such and such time, I'm going to release content at this time every week or every month, then it does wane on the viewer. Now, is consistency more important than valuable content? I don't know. That's definitely a conversation I think worth having. But consistency is very important for you specifically, because it helps to develop you into the kind of person that can manage success whenever it comes. And
Yeah.
like I said earlier, it can come quickly. It can
Right.
come in just a few short minutes, just by you changing a few things, just by a few small tweaks. And I think people underestimate the value of small change,
Yeah.
small,
So let's
small
talk.
change over time.
Maybe talk to the pastor who their church, they do a live stream once a week, and then beyond that, they're not really producing any content. Is there a way for them to take that one live stream and then maybe pull parts of it out to post again later?
Oh
Maybe
man.
to balance that question would be like, is there a ratio that you try to, and if I'm getting into stuff that you want to charge people for, you can say, hey, just sign up for my class and whatever. But do you
No,
have
Pastor
a
Paul's people
ratio?
get stuff free. So yeah.
You have a ratio of like so many videos we post are live and then so many videos are a repost of a previous live. I mean, how do you balance all that? And maybe I'm not even asking the right question, but
No, that's an interesting question. So one, we do have a class. So I will tell people about that later.
yeah,
But I do want to go into this because this is super important. Now, I want you guys to keep listening to this because we're going to get into some really important stuff here, especially if you're a pastor and you're looking to reach more people, which is what Jesus said to do. Then this is what's important. This is the gold. These are the gold nuggets. Um, Now, when it comes to content, churches are sitting on gold mines of content, right? Like if anybody has content, it's pastors. And most likely, some of y'all have just been streaming every Sunday morning service ever since YouTube was a thing, and you've never been doing anything with it, but you've got thousands of hours of teaching, of content. And here's the number one way to know if you have content someone would want to watch. Does it answer a specific question? Does it answer a specific question? Now it's interesting what you asked about pulling clips from content. Possibly our sixth most popular video. How many views is it at? Hold on. Our sixth most popular video at almost 600,000 views is a clip from another video that is our fourth most popular video with 860,000 views. Our 10th most popular video is a clip of an interview, I believe. And that's so out of 10 videos, two of them are clips out of the, I think, 800 something videos on our channel. That's very intriguing to know that that clip from an interview answers a specific question. And a lot of people think, well, people have watched this before. Doesn't matter. It's always good to reinforce things because repetition is the master of learning. But two, you're going to reach a lot more people that need to know that specific thing. They're never going to watch the entire interview. They just need to know that specific thing. And then if they're interested, they will watch the entire video. And then you're getting more watch time. Now, the goal for any platform is is to keep the viewer on that platform, right? So on YouTube, their goal is not for someone to click away through a link I mean, they're always watching the viewer's path. Like, where are they going with this? Are they going to watch this whole video? We won't recommend this to them if we don't think it's interesting. And that's what YouTube is saying. A lot of people are talking about YouTube algorithm hacks, and it's not algorithm hacks, it's people hacks. It's how can I provide value to people? And when you figure that out, then the algorithm will help you. And a lot of people are trying to break the algorithm or something. And maybe it used to work like that, but nowadays all you need to do is provide valuable content that answers specific questions, and the algorithm will help connect your content to the viewer. And I think we could go a lot deeper there, but when it comes to content, there are lots of easy ways to do it. So one is a little bit tougher, getting clips out and editing it in a separate platform like Premiere Pro or whatever, a video editor. And maybe it's 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long. That's one way. Of course, creating a new thumbnail for it. Another way, and I know you guys do this often, is creating shorts. So YouTube Shorts from content. And YouTube just released a new tool. I don't know if it's available to every creator yet, but it's worth checking out. You can create shorts from your own content a lot easier than you could before, just from your phone. And it's really cool in the YouTube app. So definitely worth looking at. But there's so much content that pastors have that answer specific questions. Now, maybe you're not ready to, for your Sunday morning services, maybe to be the thing that people watch, right? If you're a pastor, you can sit down on a Tuesday evening and do a live stream, get StreamYard or something, create a quick and easy thumbnail and go live answering one specific question. And you're like, but no one's going to be watching. Well, that doesn't matter. You're still answering a specific question. You're thinking long term. 6 months from now, a year from now, this video will still be answering this question, and it could pick up speed. And most of the time, videos don't pick up speed right away. It normally takes 6 months for it to actually do something. And that's just is to be expected. Again, it's not like Instagram. It's not like Facebook. It's not like TikTok, which is just kind of flash in the pan. This just went viral. That's amazing. No, YouTube is consistency and keep posting, because you never know what's going to hit 6 months from now. It's really interesting how it works. But what direction do you want to go in next with this? I feel like there's a million different ways we could go.
Well, I love the idea of connecting with questions that people have. And I guess I keep thinking about that, when we talk about depth, so depth of content. I mean, we've got the greatest message. And when I say we, I mean, we're talking about believers that followers of Jesus.
Yes.
I totally recognize that people could listen to this that don't love Jesus and they want to get a nugget here or there about YouTube, which is great. But we don't have to go searching for content. Like, we've got it. And so when you connect the content with the question, it is crazy. And then we're talking about YouTube. I write, I blog. The most popular, most researched and sought for blog that I wrote was almost over a decade ago. And I just woke up one day because my coffee maker was going through a weird cycle, and it was making a crazy noise. And I wrote this crazy funny blog about it, and I just called it something like why I almost killed myself in my coffee maker, something, something, something. Well, as it turns out, without realizing it, there's no user manual for that type of coffee maker that addresses that question.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have got hundreds of comments from people throughout a decade saying, man, the maker should pay you to use this in their manual, because I can't find the answer on their site, but I found it on your site. Well, Google and YouTube are very similar. So if somebody says, hey, did God really say this? Or is it okay for Christians to whatever? Like right now, it's big to talk about Revelation and end times and, pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib, Adam's rib, whatever, right? But if you address those things, then when people legitimately have those questions and they're searching, man, imagine, like, we're allowing YouTube to recommend the gospel answer
Exactly.
to those people. So maybe I know.
Here's an example.
Yeah.
Here's an example of that. We did a video, I think it was a year ago, maybe it was in 2020. I don't recall, but Pastor Allen was on a witchcraft series talking about witchcraft and demonology and deliverance and experiences he had. And we did a video, and my goal with some of those was to not make it look overtly Christian, because you don't always have to try to go for the Christian. The thumbnail doesn't have to say Jesus on it, because if you do, but it's not about changing the message.
Right.
And I think this is where a lot of pastors are like, well, I don't want to change the message. No, it's changing the marketing. Don't ever change the message. You only need to change the marketing, the way the shiny package on the outside of it, because no matter how many times people use the saying, people will always judge books by their covers, right? Yeah. Always.
Yeah.
And so we created a video about witchcraft, and on the live stream, this is just a regular Sunday morning service. On the live stream itself, I think it was probably 2 or 3 witches joined the live stream, and they were actually talking. This is actually very interesting. I've never heard this before. Who is this man? What is he? And then, of course, the call to salvation comes at the end, and maybe 2 out of 3 of them just left, or maybe wrote something really bad in the comments. But if one of them didn't respond and they were still watching, imagine what that did, what seed that planted in their life. And they weren't planning on researching how to exorcise demons using the word of God, but they ended up watching a video live about that. And I just think that's interesting, the potential reach of you. And I still feel pastors cringing right now.
Yeah.
I still feel someone saying, I just don't want to get on YouTube. I don't feel led to. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I kind of laugh at that. Like, okay, you don't feel led to. Now, don't get me wrong. The fact that churches aren't doing well on YouTube, I don't believe it is the pastor's fault, because honestly, it's not the pastor's job to be doing these things. I think maybe it could be a leadership thing. Maybe I think most of the time it needs to be a service. Like I started off volunteering hours a week helping to build this thing because I enjoyed it. I wanted to study it. I saw the church needed help on YouTube. I learned a few things, so I'm going to help in whatever way I can. And I think the church needs to get that level of servanthood
Yeah.
again. uh, I think that's really important because people need to rise up. It's not just the pastors that need to be learning how to design thumbnails and all these things on top of everything they're doing. I think there are people under them, they're sheep that need to take this up. And if you're listening to this, maybe you serve your pastor. Maybe you just want to volunteer and say, "Hey, pastor, is it okay if I experiment with this thing?"
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, go ahead.
if I can just add to that too, as a pastor who is also the person doing the video stuff, and it's just because we haven't found somebody yet that can step in and will do that. It's extremely awkward to listen to your own message to try to find the parts to pull. If you've ever given a report or done a project and had to, like, you're your worst critic. So I would say to the people that are listening that are in churches, if you're the person who hears your pastor say something and you're like, oh man, I can think of 20 people that need to hear that, you might be the person that God's anointing
Yes.
to pull that out of the message and make sure that people hear it through YouTube or whatever format. I know we're talking about YouTube, because we can't cringe at that. I mean, pastors that cringe at the thought of using technology and marketing, I would just simply say, like, read the Gospels and notice how Jesus talked. He interacted differently with different people.
Yes.
He said things to Nicodemus that were religious because that's what Nicodemus knew, but he said things to the woman at his feet, like, daughter, your sins are forgiven. Like
Hmm.
he just interacted differently. And that's all we're talking about is people, they need to see it in a different light, in a way that appeals to them, so that they will be attracted to the actual message that Jesus has to share with them. So, and I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No,
Go ahead and finish that thought that you had.
No, that's really good, and I'm glad we were able to get your thoughts on from the pastor's view as well. Now, listen to me, gathering folks. There's one of you out there that can manage this stuff for him, so get
Come
on
on,
it.
come on. That was the word. Let's just
That's the
end the
prophetic word of the
podcast
day.
right now.
Yes. But YouTube is so important, and I still feel people cringing. And this is kind of where I was going earlier, and I got sidetracked. I still feel pastors cringing at, well, we're already on Facebook, we're already streaming on Facebook, we're posting on Instagram. I don't want to add YouTube. That is a mistake. Facebook could die in the next 5 minutes, and that's no joke. Instagram could die in the next 5 minutes. TikTok could take over. You never know what's going to happen. YouTube is one of the only platforms that could actually last another 10 years, another 15 years. Now, they plan on lasting a lot longer than that. So don't ever think YouTube's going away. I want to read you some stats about YouTube real quick. YouTube receives more searches every month than Microsoft Bing, Yahoo, AOL, and Ask.com combined.
Mm.
YouTube receives more searches every month than all of those services combined. YouTube viewers watch over 1 billion hours of videos on the platform every single day. More than 1 billion hours of video content is consumed every day. Now, I was reading these statistics, and I asked my pastor, is it okay if I talk to, and this is kind of continuing the story from earlier, is it okay if I talk to our congregation about the importance of YouTube and what we're going to be doing? And this is probably a month before the pandemic, before anything was on a month before all of that broke out. And I showed them, this is a Wednesday night Bible study, right? There's like 15 wild on fire people in the room that are there on a Wednesday night. Come on, can I get my Wednesday nighters to raise their hand on this podcast? But no, Wednesday nighters, they're often the most fiery because they care, right? They're the people that set aside time to be at church on a Wednesday night. And a lot of them were elderly, right? 60s, 70s, and it's amazing. And they're like elders in the church, they're amazing people. But my thought was they're not gonna get this, but I'm gonna explain it to them anyway. And I taught them how YouTube works, and they took it and ran with it. Now, I told them about those analytics, those not analytics, excuse me, the statistics. I showed them what to do with YouTube. Now, this is cool for any congregation you have. You need to share with the people, at least with the dream team, but everyone in the room should know that whenever you click like on a video, you're helping to get that video in front of someone else's face. Whenever you turn that video on and set it down, maybe while you're doing dishes, you need to be listening to your pastor's message more than once anyway. So while you're listening to it on YouTube, setting down, maybe while you're in the shower or something, you're listening to it, it's getting views. You're watching through the entire thing. The watch time is helping, and to get that video in front of more people. And we explained to them how to do that. We explained to them how to share and all of those things. Now, I did bring my Bible to a podcast. So the Bible verse that the Holy Spirit led me to before I spoke to the congregation was in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 34. No, excuse me, 33. It says, "Be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners. Awake to righteousness and sin not, for some have not the knowledge of God. I speak this to your shame." So what in the immediate thought, excuse me, the immediate thought that came into my mind was Paul was talking to the church at Corinth, and he was saying, there's a lot of churches in your area that are saying that Jesus Christ didn't even rise from the dead, and this is your fault. It's like, well, wait a second. Let's look at this from the viewpoint of the church today. Okay, there's a lot of false doctrine on YouTube today, and it's not the church down the road. It's not their fault. It's not the church you see on YouTube's fault. It's not their fault for putting out the false doctrine. It's our fault. We need to take personal responsibility for not teaching the truth. And we need to get on YouTube, especially before we start throwing stones at people. We need to start posting good, valuable content that answers specific questions and that is biblical. It's very important that we get back to that on YouTube. And I mean, a lot of you are like, well, there's so many people out there that are like, they're a little crazy. And that's the point. You need to get on there. I mean, maybe you are a little crazy. I mean, we are a little crazy, right? Yeah. But yeah, you agree. We're a little crazy, but that's why we need to be on YouTube, right? We're reading the Bible, and maybe a lot of other people aren't, and we need to bring that balance. So that's what I shared with the congregation, and they took it and ran with it. And of course, things doubled really quickly. This is in the summer of 2020, and it was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's so important. You know, we come together and we like, how can two walk together unless they agree to do so? But the flip is also true when they agree to do so. Holy cow.
Come on.
We walk together, right? And we've just seen that happen in your church. And I love that. You had mentioned, I think it was I want to say yardstick, but that's not it. What is it? The streaming
StreamYard.
StreamYard, yeah. Hey, yeah, y'all go get a yardstick and stream.
Yeah. Be a good competitor to StreamYard.
People can actually, I mean, they can create a channel and then they can do live, they can stream live from the channel correctly.
Yes. So you don't need to get a paid thing. Now there is a certain, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I think you need like 10 subscribers or something like that, but you just get your mom and her side of the family, and
send us a link and we'll subscribe to your channel.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll make it possible for you to go live. So it's really easy, and then you just start going live. Going live is super easy, because especially compared to recording videos and editing them and then posting them, because there's no editing. It comes with countdowns in the software. Most of the time why people use countdowns is so there's no, when the stream buffers, sometimes you miss some things. So it's good to have that countdown as buffer time and then a graphic at the end. But then you want to cut that out afterward, right? So that way, whenever people click on it on the replay of the live stream, they don't see a countdown, because that's another, they have to fast forward now. They'd rather find a new video than fast forward through your countdown. My two pet peeves. Can I get on this? Can I rant for a second?
Do it. And if I've done any of these on our channel, I'm going to fix it the minute we're off this podcast.
Hey, I'm not talking about you though, Pastor Paul. So my two biggest pet peeves, other than chicken salad, is sorry.
I feel like we need to stop and talk about chicken salad for a second.
I don't want to talk about chicken salad. Okay. I don't like chicken salad.
All right.
We'll leave it at that. My two biggest pet peeves with churches on YouTube is, one, they don't cut out their countdown. You should be cutting out your countdown or your announcement videos. Nobody cares about your announcement video. They don't care about the cook-off you've got going. I'm getting a little rough here just to push the point on you.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about your chili cook-off Nobody cares about your Christmas dress up party or whatever it is. They live in Africa. They're not coming to your Christmas dress up party. They don't care about, whatever. They need an answer to the question they're asking, so make sure they get it. Second pet peeve, and this is the worst. Anytime I see this, I about scream. I want to go find that person, slap them upside the face, and say, "What are you even doing?" Whenever they have the title of the service, in the title of the service, they have the date. When it's Sunday morning, ECC, 10/20/2022. It's awful. Nobody cares about when the video was streamed unless it's like some documentary of, like, I don't know, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the date he actually did the first live stream, and it's the day he I don't know, but nobody cares about the date. They need to know what that question is being answered in that video. What question is being answered in that video?
Yeah.
So please don't ever put dates in your titles.
So I'm gonna push back, and because I want to learn something, right?
Okay.
Let me tell you what we've started doing, and maybe we're doing it completely wrong, and you can help us right now. So
doing it wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, because we're doing both of the things you just mentioned. So
it's okay.
We live stream every Sunday morning service, and so that we don't mess with. Like it, when I walk out of church, we've got already 60, 70, 80 views, whatever. So that live stream stays on YouTube. It's in a channel playlist or whatever called past live streams. So if you went to that, you're going to see the countdown. You're going to see our intermission slides. You're going to see worship, the sermon, all that. But then, and there's a thumbnail for that we create. And then we pull out the message, and we repost that with its own thumbnail that addresses more of the question. Mm-hmm. And then we post that as a separate video. Maybe are we doing it wrong? Is there something we should do better? And we don't put a date in that video, but the date for the live stream does. Obviously, it says what Sunday it was.
So here is one of the most underrated tools in YouTube. You can trim things out in YouTube. So you go into YouTube even after the live stream. Now, here's why this is important. So this is an amazing question. I'm really glad you brought it up. This might be a better way to do it, and of course you can decide after this. I normally encourage people to trim out praise and worship. Now, here's why. I'm not saying you have to trim out praise and worship, but here's why I encourage that. One, the person clicks on the video, they need an answer to their question. Now, this is why you're posting the other video, the other Correct. Version of the video, right, trimmed to the message, which is still a possibility, like if you want to do that. But this is potentially hindering growth, because when you go live, that is your most opportune moment to do well. Live streams, I don't care what platform it is, the platform is going to favor live streams over anything else. Even TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, live streams. On Instagram, you'll see the live stream is on the top of the page. You'll get recommended so many live streams, especially around service times like Sunday at 10:30. You're going to get recommended so many live streams because YouTube knows the live streams are great for engagement and keeping people on the platform. So that's 60 to 90 views, right? Whatever it is after the live stream. And then, so that stays there. And then you repost the message. So now you've got two things dividing your views.
Right.
So if you can just trim out, you go live, and instead of it splitting off into two there, hit my microphone, instead of it splitting off into two, you keep that one going as fast as possible. Like you do the launch strategy, the rocket strategy, where you trim out. We always trim out countdown. We don't stream praise and worship because the audio stinks, which we're hopefully going to fix here soon. But honestly, who wants to see my praise and worship team sing a song everyone's already heard a billion times anyway?
Yeah.
Like they can just find the recording of it from the original. Unless they're writing music, I mean, then maybe they should have another channel where they're doing that on another channel. That way that's still applicable. Now, I did some meetings with Pastor Rod Parsley's team in Ohio. They called me up to do some trainings for their team, and they still keep praise and worship in the live stream. They'll trim out the countdown, but they have chapters in the video. So this is a third option, another way of doing it. That way people know where to go. But again, that's another step to get to the content.
Yeah.
So they have to fast forward to get to the answer to their question. And that's always kind of just not desirable when it comes to live streams. So I recommend cutting up to the message, and that way the the virality of that can continue. Like
Yeah.
when you're firing a rocket into space, um, you don't want to release that engine too soon or whatever it's called. You don't release the thing that's bursting it forward too soon. Otherwise, that thing's gonna just fall over and explode on the earth, which is
Right.
what videos do, right? Um, it's the way it
Well,
feels like sometimes.
what a violent analogy, but
I
yes,
apologize.
so true, right?
Yes.
So, okay, I'm the guy that's always raising my hand in the class. Can I ask you one more question?
You can ask me five.
So we used to do that. We've done all those. We used to trim out just the sermon and keep that, because that way you keep all the views, it continues to grow, all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. Um, and then we started doing chapters, but here's the specific reason why we did it. Now, for those of you that are listening, I don't know what your denominational persuasion is. I'm Pentecostal. I know that, Evan, you're in a Pentecostal church as well. We just started to see this amazing outpouring of the Holy Spirit during praise and worship. So, like, we'd be singing, and then I might get up, or Pastor Bridget, or Pastor Tori, or one of our elders might get up and share a prophetic word that felt sometimes like it was greater than just for our room.
Hmm.
And we knew that we were live streaming. And so when we didn't want to trim that out because, maybe that's important. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of how we landed on what we're doing now. But I'm all, like you said, small tweaks lead to giant peaks, right?
Peaks.
Is
There
that
you
what
go.
you said? And that was your quote. Evan
Mine.
DeVito
I take
said
it.
it from now till the end of time.
Yes.
So what would you recommend there? Because I've got a lot of, and we might have to have you back on because I don't want to make this a forever long interview. But what I keep thinking is the question that this started with your pastor was, what would church look like if it was not just in the building, right? I
If
can't
it was
remember
entirely online.
entirely on. So the question would be, we want to minister to the people in the building that are there, but we also want to remember that we're ministering potentially to a much greater audience. Um, so, I mean, I'm not sure how to answer. Can you feel my angst?
Oh no, yes.
Like
That
that
is
word is such an important word. Do we trim it out because it was just for the people that were here? Do we archive it some other way? You got
I think
thoughts
it's
about that?
I think it's definitely context based. Like, is that word for one person in the now? Even if it is just for one person in the congregation, it's probably for lots of people. Like, most of the time, God isn't talking to someone; He's talking through someone, right?
Yeah.
So that's not the only person that needs to hear that, although it's definitely directed toward them. But could that be posted in a separate video? Because it doesn't necessarily answer the question that the video is proposing in the title, um, but it does answer a question. So if it's the first thing in this, like if you've got praise and worship and that happens in the praise and worship, it's almost like a diamond in the rough, almost hard to find. So could it be posted separately?
Well, let me ask you this. We started doing this as well. We started a playlist. I think is what they're called. So we'll do playlists for all the sermon series, blah 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 blah. But we have one playlist called Bethel Moments, and we just call them. Those are moments when God shows up, and we know that
Mm,
He's moving. So I'm asking a practical, technical YouTube question. I have the live stream. Yes. I know that you can go in YouTube and you can trim out all of the fat. So you've just got the message.
hmm
But if you save that, then you've lost the live stream, correct? Like it's gone.
So
That
this is where recording the files live, or you can download it from YouTube if you want to. Like I'm if
you have to
there,
do that first. Yes.
so yeah, we record everything. So
Yeah.
we
So then you would have that. You would trim out the sermon, the message from the live stream, so you keep the rocket going up.
mhm.
But then you would go back maybe in Premiere Pro or whatever you're using and pull out that Bethel moment, that word that was there,
Yes.
and maybe post that as a separate. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Got
And that way we can control it a little better. So that both of those videos answer specific questions. But if you try to chase two rabbits, you'll end up catching neither of them. But if you catch one rabbit and you train it up, it can help you catch the other rabbit, right? And
Oh, if you get those rabbits in a room together and close the door,
that's how would you get them in the room though? That's a
I don't know, but if you could,
that'd still be
back
pretty
like a week
difficult.
later, you'd have 1,000 rabbits.
Yeah, I guess. So, let it be known, I didn't bring this up. Pastor Paul did.
That analogy does not need to go viral.
Yeah,
All right.
no, definitely not.
Funny
But
loaf.
but no, it's both of those videos are very important, but they shouldn't be together
Gotcha.
because if they're together, they won't go anywhere.
Yeah,
But
that's
if they're individual, they will go after the right person. So yeah, we record everything. We'll edit it out. We will position it correctly. It'll have the right thumbnail. That's a really important question. Now this is a struggle because a lot of churches they want to stream their praise and worship music, and I completely get that. Um, Maybe you stream that on Facebook and that just remains on Facebook if there's someone that needs to hear it. Now, especially if the sound isn't great and there's nothing really there content wise, maybe just consider keeping the praise and worship private, and not releasing that. I don't know. Maybe I have to be that person to tell you maybe you shouldn't be streaming your praise and worship music.
yeah. I think
Um,
most worship teams would be happy if they weren't being streamed.
there's a little more freedom.
I'm a preacher. Sometimes I would like to not be streamed as
Yeah.
I'm
Just get rid of the camera and the people and it would be a whole lot better.
Yeah. Man, this has been so good, Evan.
Hmm.
I'm definitely going to want to have you back on. I think people just are, they're going to resonate with the tips you've given. There have been some really good nuggets.
Oh, thank you.
You've made me want more, and I know you personally. So I know the people that are listening are going to want more content. And on your YouTube channel, you've got some really good content, like how to get started on not necessarily on a dime, but you can spend way too much money when you don't have to.
Oh yeah.
Quick plug here: the audio version, the audio that on my podcast is a microphone that you recommended to me. And if you go back and people listen to my first one or two episodes, and now listen to this one, it's a totally different quality. And it didn't cost an arm and a leg, but I didn't know what to get.
Just
You
an arm.
recommended it. So yeah, just an arm. So why don't as we close it, just take a minute and kind of we'll put all this in the show notes, but point people to the course that you mentioned,
Yeah.
to your YouTube channel, just wherever we can point people to get more content from you.
This is going to be really important. I mentioned in a meeting at another church a few weeks ago, just to kind of wake people up to this idea of YouTube. I said, if your church has been on YouTube for more than 24 months and you don't have 10,000 subscribers, you're not taking YouTube seriously. And maybe that's you. Maybe you're listening. You're like, well, how do I know if I should go after this? Well, do you care about the people on YouTube? Which, by the way, there's more than 2.6 billion monthly active users. More than half the world is on social media in general, and YouTube is one of the most used apps. So, and it's accessible in more than 80 languages.
Yeah.
So when Jesus said go into all the world, how in the world are you going to do that if you don't go on YouTube? There's almost no way. I mean, Dr. Lester Summerall spent his whole life and he went around the whole world, but he found out what television was. So he started launching satellites into space. Now, I feel like some of us, we're going to meet Dr. Lester Summerall one day in heaven, and he's going to be like, wait, you're telling me you had a brick you could pick up at any time and record a video and release that to more than half of the world's population? If you were having coffee with him, he'd probably spit out his coffee and slap you. That's probably what would happen at that moment. No, but pastors need to be taking this seriously. Churches need to be taking this seriously. Media directors need to be taking this seriously. I almost wonder what media directors are even doing other than operating a camera if they're not working on the live stream and making sure the thumbnail looks good and everything else is looking good. So what I want you to do, if you want to take this to the next level, and you're saying, well, today was like a fire hose of information, right, Evan? I mean, it was crazy. Well, if you want all of this distilled into an online course, we created an online course. So what you can do is go to encountertoday.com/ecourses. That's ECOURSES. Encountertoday.com/ecourses. You scroll down and you'll see the Christian Media Masterclass. Click the enroll here button and you'll see it's $830. And I almost felt some hairs stand up because it's like pastors are like, $830? I can't spend $50 right now. Well, think about your college experience, okay? So college would cost you $30,000 a year, let's say for 4 years, right? You're going to end up paying $120,000 for something that, especially if you went into media to learn YouTube at college, guess what? When you get out, that information is going to be irrelevant, which is
Yeah.
why I didn't go to college for YouTube, because I'm learning more from people that high school dropouts out of Nevada than I am from a college course. But we took this information. We took the people from actually my mentor, Sean Cannell, Omar El Takori works really closely with him, and we had Omar El Takori out. He's a pastor, so he knows how to talk directly to people. And we had him out. We did this entire course called the Armed Spirit-Filled Media course, and you need to get it. Now you can do a free preview. You can look at some of the content. There's 35 lessons. We're going to add more here soon. We go through everything. We talk about Goliath's sword. So my pastor did a presentation really about the importance of all this. We talked about how to build your media battle station. So if you want to know, okay, how do I make my video look good? How do I do good live streams? We talked about that. We talked about niching down. We talked about the YouTube algorithm's secrets, which is what I got to have a keynote on, which was fun. We talked about how to go viral on YouTube and much more. So I definitely want you to go onto the course and just get it. $829. It's going to be well worth it. We're going to keep adding to it. You don't have to pay. You get this for life. You can share this with anyone in your church. Get them on it. You only pay for it once, and then they can watch it and ask questions. Get active in the community, and let me know. Shoot me an Instagram DM if you have questions at Evan Didio. And yeah, I really think that this is an underlooked opportunity right now, but in a year or so, this is gonna get a lot bigger, and the price is gonna go up a lot higher. So I definitely recommend getting into this now.
Yeah, I just preached this past Sunday. We're doing a series called Family Matters, and we're talking about how the kingdom is about family.
Mm,
And if it doesn't matter, what are we doing, right?
yeah.
And this past Sunday, it specifically was on family makes the investment.
Mm,
And the big idea, the key point was until we see the value, we'll only see the cost. So I mean, I'm that pastor who's $830. It's hard to swallow.
yeah.
I think after this conversation, I mean, you have clearly shown the value of going after this arm of fighting a cultural battle,
Oh, definitely.
proclaiming truth. I mean, we are literally every time we post something to YouTube, we are calling a generation to action. And if we can't see the value in that,
Yeah.
I mean, even that course isn't going to help people, right?
Yep.
So I'm just saying to our listeners and pastors, especially, I understand the reluctance of investing in something that you don't understand, but you're investing in it because there's value in what you will learn and how you can implement it. And if you've got nobody in your church that will help you, man, go get the information yourself. I'm an example of that. We don't have nearly the followers that I would like, but I think Evan, you and I spoke maybe a year ago, a year and a
Hmm.
half ago, and our subscriber base has more than doubled since then. We're approaching the 500 mark, which I'm thrilled about. Not
Hallelujah.
quite where we want to be, but it's so much better than it was. And that's
Yeah.
just one person, you know, applying a few of the principles that you've shared.
Right.
So please, listeners, don't hesitate. Give them that website one more time where they can
So
go.
yeah, encountertoday.com/e-courses. And Pastor Omar, when he was here, he heard we were turning it into a course. He was like, dude, this course would easily be at a low end $5,000 in the normal world scene. Like that just makes sense. That's low, but many people would charge $10,000, $15,000 for something like this. So $830 is unheard of.
Yeah.
And I think when pastors get the value of this, things will start to change.
Yeah. So good. Well, I hope you get tons of people that sign up
Oh, me too.
because, and I'm pumped about it just hearing just this last conversation, just hearing you talk about stats. I think people have no clue. We're so kind of against social media. Like
Mm.
there's so much bad stuff on it that we forget how good it could be when we engage with it and get good content out there. So thanks for taking the time just to share with us, encourage us. I think I just heard my coffee machine shut down,
Oh, you got to do another blog.
which means it might be time for me to just like get off of here because without coffee, I
That's
mean,
important.
yeah, it is
What are you going to
important.
do?
That's another podcast episode. Just
Now,
coffee beans and
real quick, because people are still listening, could I give them a discount code to the course?
absolutely.
So this is what happens whenever you keep listening to a podcast and you don't just turn off. You get a discount code. So whenever you're checking out, type in Master Media. You'll get 10% off. Both M's capitalized. Master Media, both M's capitalized. So there you
Cool.
go.
Hey, I mean, like you listen to us rant and talk for like a few more seconds and you got a 10% discount.
Hey,
Come
that's
on.
what happens. Don't
People
make
have
me give
never been
another
more happy
10%.
to have listened to me longer than right now.
Yeah.
Evan, it's been such a pleasure.
Oh, my
Thanks
pleasure.
for all that you're doing for the kingdom, the way
Mhm.
you're investing in leaders and in churches. I'm just praying that God blows up your YouTube channel and your influence. You steward the influence very well.
Mm.
And I just want to say, as a pastor, thank you for being a voice where you're just provoking us to good works and not letting us sit back and just be content to talk to a room full of people when we can actually engage an entire culture. So thank you for all that you're doing, and God just continue to grow it and continue to bless it.
Wow, I received that. Thank you so much, Pastor.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we will talk with you the next time we get together on this podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you like it, make sure that you subscribe, and please make sure you share it with somebody that you know will benefit from what we just talked about. You've been listening to the Reluctant Leader Podcast. Thanks so much for being a part of this conversation. You can follow us at the reluctantleaderpodcast.com or wherever you download your podcast. Be sure that you subscribe and like us and leave us a rating and a comment. We'd love to hear from you and hear what God's showing you. And remember this, no matter how reluctant you feel, keep saying yes, and He'll do the rest.